Lebanese President Aoun accepts Miqati's resignation, appoints Nawaf Salam to form new government. US approves $6.75 billion arms sales to Israel, including $660 million for Hellfire missiles. And Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati reaffirms Egypt's commitment to stabilizing ceasefire and implementing all its phases. It's 8 p.m. Cairo local time and you're watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has signed a decree accepting the resignation of Prime Minister Najib Miqati's government and assigned Prime Minister Nawaf Salam with the task of forming a new government. The President then, along with the Prime Minister designate, signed the decree establishing a new government composed of 24 ministers. European Union Ambassador to Lebanon Sandra De Wello has expressed her support for the new Lebanese government and welcomed Prime Minister Nawaf Salam's commitment to its reform agenda. That came as she posted on X platform that reforms are vital for Lebanon's future and asserted that the EU will continue to support Lebanon. She added that the EU relies on all officials to not only adopt but also implement these reforms. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry has affirmed that Egypt welcomes the formation of the new Lebanese government and looks forward to the new government gaining the confidence of the Lebanese parliament. In a statement, the ministry highlighted that Egypt values the formation of new Lebanese government, which will contribute to achieving security and stability in Lebanon and restoring its rightful regional stature. Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has affirmed that his government aims to restore confidence between citizens and the state, Lebanon and its Arab neighbors, and Lebanon and the international community at large. Salam stated that the government will collaborate with Parliament to implement the Ta'if Agreement and pursue financial and economic reforms. He emphasized that the cabinet's focus will be on constructive collaboration rather than conflict, stressing rather that reform is the only path to genuine salvation. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has met with newly appointed Prime Minister Nawaf Salam at Ba'abda Palace to discuss the latest consultations regarding government formation. The meeting concluded with an agreement to continue talks to speed up the process. Salam, who was tasked with forming a new government over 3 weeks ago, left the palace without making a statement. Lebanon's former Prime Minister Najib Miqati has renewed his call for the complete Israeli withdrawal from occupied southern Lebanon by February 18th. In a meeting with U.S. Deputy Special Envoy for the Middle East, Morgan Ortagus, in Beirut, Miqati also demanded an end to Israel's systematic destruction of southern villages and urged the implementation of UN Resolution 1701. He stressed that complying with international law is key to regional stability. Moving on to Syria, where Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, Fernando Arias, has met with Syrian officials in Damascus, according to 3 informed sources. The meeting includes Syrian Transitional President Ahmed al-Shara and Foreign Minister readiness to operate after years of tense relations. Now we move on to the latest developments in Gaza. The United States has approved a potential $6.75 billion arms sale to Israel, including a $660 million deal for Hellfire missiles. The Pentagon confirmed that the State Department approved the sale, emphasizing that all Middle East-related decisions are made by President Trump in line with U.S. strategic interests. For the 19th consecutive day, Israeli forces continued their assault on Jenin and its refugee camp, killing 25 Palestinians and injuring dozens. Israeli troops raided several villages in the province, arresting 3 Palestinians in Yamoun and 2 in Yabad in Jenin city. Forces seized a vehicle, assaulted its passengers, and demolished homes and properties in Al Hadaf and Wadi Burqin neighborhood. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that 26 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza over the past 48 hours. Among them, 22 bodies were recovered from the rubble, while 5 others were wounded. This brings the total deaths since October 7, 2023 to 48,181, with 111,638 injured. The ministry warns that many victims remain trapped under the debris, with rescue teams unable to reach them. Israeli forces have withdrawn from Tamun, southeast of Tubas, after 7 days of siege. The town's mayor confirmed that displaced Palestinians have begun returning to their homes. However, the Israeli incursion left significant destruction to public and private properties. The Israeli occupation forces have stormed Balata refugee camp east of Nablus in the occupied West Bank. According to the Palestinian news agency, the forces entered the camp from its southern and northern entrances, deploying in various alleyways and surrounding buildings. Additionally, Israeli bulldozers demolished a street inside the camp and sent new military reinforcement toward Tulkarm. In a recent development, President Donald Trump has proposed a controversial plan to relocate Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, suggesting that the United States take control of the territory and redevelop it into a resort destination. This proposal has been met with widespread rejection from Gaza's residents and the international community at large.
The proposal by US President Donald Trump to relocate Palestinians from the Gaza Strip has been met with overwhelming rejection by its residents, who remain steadfast in their determination to stay despite the destruction and loss caused by the ongoing conflict. During a joint press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump announced an unprecedented plan in which the United States would assume ownership of the Gaza Strip, relocate its Palestinian population, and redevelop the territory. The proposal, framed as a solution to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, has sparked outrage among Palestinians and the broader international community. For many in Gaza, this is not the first attempt to forcibly remove them from their homeland. Over the decades, Palestinians have resisted multiple efforts to displace them, vowing to remain on their land despite the devastation caused by months of Israeli attacks. Residents insist they will not abandon their homes, arguing that Trump's plan is nothing more than a pretext for US and Israeli control over the region. The rejection of the plan extends beyond Gaza's borders. International leaders, including officials from Egypt, Jordan, and several European nations, have strongly criticized the proposal, warning that it could further destabilize the Middle East. Human rights organizations have condemned the move as a violation of international law and a blatant attempt at forced displacement. Despite widespread expectations that the plan will fail, experts caution that it cannot be dismissed outright. They emphasize the need for coordinated Palestinian response and international mobilization to counter the proposal. Calls are growing for diplomatic efforts to reinforce global support for the Palestinian rights and prevent any further displacement. Local residents in Gaza have called the US proposal a veiled attempt to expel them, warning that such actions would only deepen the suffering of an already devastated population. As the situation unfolds, the fate of Gaza's 2.3 million residents remains uncertain, but their message is clear: they will not leave their land.
Hamas has announced the release of 3 Israeli detainees as part of the 5th batch of the first phase of the detainee exchange and Gaza ceasefire agreement. The Israeli army confirmed receiving Eli Sharabi, Ahad bin Ami, and Or Levi after Hamas freed them in Deir al-Balah. Gaza, in return, Israel released a group of Palestinian detainees under the terms of the agreement. Meanwhile, one of the released Israeli captives has urged the Israeli government to begin talks for the second phase of the ceasefire deal, signaling the possibility of further negotiations. A bus carrying a group of freed Palestinian detainees has arrived in Ramallah after their release from Israel's Afar prison as part of the ongoing ceasefire agreement. Under the deal, Israel has agreed to release 183 Palestinian detainees, including 18 serving life sentences and 54 with high sentences. The list also includes 111 detainees from Gaza arrested after October 7, 2023. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulhadi has reaffirmed Egypt's commitment to stabilizing the ceasefire and ensuring the full implementation of its 3 phases. In a phone call with Portuguese Foreign Minister Paulo Rangel, Abdulhadi stressed that any post-war plans for Gaza must maintain Palestinian unity and include the return of the Palestinian Authority to the Strip. He also rejected any forced displacement of Palestinians during the early recovery and reconstruction phase. Israeli media has reported that Phase 2 of the detainee exchange deal between Hamas and Israel will begin after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu returns from Washington and the cabinet convenes. Netanyahu hinted at war if Hamas remains in Gaza and the deal falters. The US reportedly supports Israeli military action if Hamas violates the agreement or negotiations fail.
The US will take over the Gaza Strip and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of it.
US President Donald Trump has stated that he is not in a hurry to implement his plan to take control of Gaza and redevelop it. Speaking alongside Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, Trump reaffirmed that the US does not need to deploy ground troops in Gaza.
US Steel is a very important company to us. It was the greatest company in the world for 15 years, many years ago, 80 years ago.
Palestinians who were forcibly displaced to southern Gaza are now returning to their devastated homes in Gaza City and the north after more than 15 months of war. Israel's destruction of infrastructure aimed to force migration, but instead, Palestinians remain determined to stay on their homeland. Egypt has strongly condemned Israel's irresponsible and unacceptable statements calling for a Palestinian state to be established on Saudi territory. These remarks, which directly undermine Saudi sovereignty, bluntly violate international law and the UN Charter. In a statement, Egypt reaffirmed that Saudi Arabia's security and sovereignty are red lines. It described the Israeli comments as a reckless breach of diplomatic norms and an affront to Palestinian rights, urging the international community to denounce such provocations. Hamas has condemned US sanctions on the International Criminal Court, the ICC, saying they reward Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government while undermining justice for victims. Hamas urged Rome Statute signatory nations to take concrete steps to uphold international law and protect global stability. ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan was the first official to be affected by US sanctions imposed by President Trump. Reuters reported that Khan's name reportedly appears in an unpublished annex of Trump's executive order issued last Thursday, which freezes assets in the US and restricts travel for affected individuals and their families.
On the basis of evidence collected, my office submits that there are reasonable grounds to believe
A coalition of 79 nations has voiced support for the International Criminal Court, the ICC, warning that US sanctions threaten global justice and weaken international law. The countries, which make up nearly 2/3 of the ICC's member states, condemned any attempt to undermine the court's independence. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, is the world's first permanent and independent tribunal dedicated to prosecuting war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and crimes of aggression. Established in 2002 under the Rome Statute, the court operates from The Hague, Netherlands, and plays a critical role in holding individuals accountable for the most serious offences under international law. Now we move on to the latest developments in the United States in President Donald Trump's era.
Donald Trump is his name, and he's there to stay.
As unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
America powerful. We will win, win, win. And we will make America great again. We will very quickly make America great again.
The U.S. Coast Guard has confirmed finding wreckage matching a missing plane in Alaska, with all 10 aboard confirmed dead. The single-engine plane operated by Bering Air disappeared on February 6th en route from Onlakit to Nam. Poor weather, including snowstorms and low visibility, hindered rescue efforts. The wreckage was located on sea ice, but recovery efforts remain ongoing.
Condolences and support to the families and loved ones of the passengers and pilot.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the immediate revocation of former President Joe Biden's security clearance and cessation of his daily intelligence briefings. Citing a report by Special Counsel Robert Hur last year, Trump described Biden as elderly with poor memory. Trump accused Biden of manipulating the intelligence community to block Trump's access to national security information. U.S. President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba have met in Washington, aiming to usher in a new golden era for U.S.-Japanese relations. They pledged to deepen cooperation in defense, economy, technology, and other areas. Trump emphasized working towards balanced trade, enhancing energy partnership, and countering China's aggression, with Japan increasing investments in the U.S.
Especially with Japan. We will be discussing North Korea and many other things. We'll be spending pretty much the day.
North Korea has declared its nuclear weapons are not negotiations tool for money, but are meant for combat against threats to its people and global peace. The statement follows a U.S.-Japanese meeting where U.S. Donald Trump hosted Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba as they reaffirmed their commitment to denuclearization of North Korea. Japan emphasized the need to address Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs with the United States.
Any further deliberations on Gaza, sir?
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a $1 billion military equipment and technology sale to Japan, emphasizing Tokyo's commitment to bilateral defense ties. Japan also plans to import record volumes of U.S. liquefied natural gas, marking a significant step in energy partnership and economic ties. The agreement aims to boost stability in the Asia-Pacific region and strengthen U.S.-Japanese relations.
But no, I would very much like to...
And turning to Kiev, where Ukrainian media has reported powerful explosions in Kiev and Chernigov, accompanied by air raid sirens, warnings of potential Russian airstrikes. Explosions were confirmed in Kiev, its outskirts, and Chernigov. Authorities sounded alarms across Kiev City, Kiev region, and Chernigov region, cautioning residents about imminent aerial attacks. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. Lebanese President Aoun accepts Miqati's resignation, appoints Nawaf Salam to form new government. US approves $6.75 billion arms sales to Israel, including $660 million for Hellfire missiles. And Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati reaffirms Egypt's commitment to stabilizing ceasefire agreement and implementing all its phases. Well, this concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Many thanks for watching.